Hey, what's happening, people of the internet? It's Dr. John Delony here with the Ramsey Network. Today we're talking about what do you do when a parent who left you high and dry reaches out and wants to reconcile. So I got an email to askjohn@ramseysolutions.com. I'm going to read it to you today. Here we go. Dr. D, what's up? What's up? Rolling in my 5.0 with my rag top down so my hair can blow, all that. Hope you're doing well. I am. You too. I'm writing to you to get some advice on my fiance's lack of relationship with her mother. Due to poor decisions made by her mother when my fiance was young, her mother was removed from her life and her dad raised her quite excellently. Excellently is not a word, but I appreciate you're going for it there. Quite excellently for a single dad. They hadn't had communication for nearly a decade, and recently she's been reaching out to her on social media to try to reconnect, and she even suggested they meet for lunch sometime. I've always known about her childhood, and I assumed this would happen eventually. I just thought, or really hoped, it would be later in life. We just graduated college and are starting new jobs in separate towns about 2 hours apart while they're planning our wedding. That is in 6 months. Our relationship is healthy, and we're going through some premarital counseling. I want to encourage reconciliation, but at the same time, I could also see negative effects coming from that. You're right, and you're right. I love my fiance and will work through anything relationally, but I'm not sure how to start talking through this with her. Awesome, great question. Good for you for being a fiance that cares about his future relationship and, more importantly, cares about his future wife. Way to go, dude. You get a gold dude star. So now that we have the internet, parents who were separated from their kids, whether it's because of adoption or whether it's because they had addiction issues and courts took them away, or whether there was abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, there was separation. Man, now you can just Google, find Facebooks, find the interwebs, and people are tracking each other down. So if you've been separated from your birth parents, this is gonna happen to you more than likely. This video is for folks whose parents were addicts when they were young and now they're clean. This video is for the dad who cheated on mom and he took off with the secretary and now he's back after 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. This video is for folks whose parents were religious zealots and now they've changed their hearts and minds and they want to have relationships. This video is for folks whose parents were uber angry or super avoidant or were hypercritical and now they desperately want a relationship. What do you do when you get that first Facebook post or that Instagram post that says, hey, this is your mom, I'd love to talk. So here are 4 things you got to consider when you are thinking about reconciliation. Number 1, you got to let the fantasy go. You're not going to have a great conversation and then everyone's going to head off to Chuck E. Cheese. That's not how these things go. You're not going to get back old birthday parties. You're not going to get back learning how to ride a bicycle with your dad in the cul-de-sac at the end of your street and fireworks shows and all of that. That stuff is gone. A parent's job is to teach their kids how to connect, how to love and be loved well. And for whatever reason, if you're watching this video, your parents did not do that. This person wasn't your mom. This wasn't your dad. They were maybe your mother or your father, right? They gave birth to you, but they didn't raise you. And so you have to know that in many ways, you are meeting a stranger. So you've got to let the fantasy go. Number 2, be clear about why you want to meet. Are you just curious? Do you want to know about your heritage? Have you actually forgiven your birth parent and you just want to circle up and say, hey, we're adults and I want to build a relationship going this way? Or do you want to show up and just ready to unload like a scene from some dramatized Lifetime movie where you say the good thing and they cry and then you hug at the end? None of that's going to happen, okay? So you have to ask yourself why. If you're going to a reconciliation conversation or you choose to meet your mom at McDonald's and your only reason to go is to fight and yell and show them how angry you are and tell them the things, you're going to leave angry, you're going to leave hurt, and you're going to leave empty. So ask yourself, why do you want to have this meeting? Why do you want to reconcile? Why do you want to come back together? Number 3, if you choose to go ahead and meet in person, if you choose to be in contact electronically or to make a phone call, you choose the boundaries and the terms, period. You choose when and where the meeting's going to happen. You choose when and where you're going to communicate and how you're going to communicate. You decide if this person's going to get your cell number or your home address, if they're going to meet your kids, if they're going to find out you have a dog, if they're going to know where you work. All of that is on your terms. The temptation when you're running to see an old parent an old birth mother, an old birth father, is to say, oh my gosh, and you dump right back into those old roles. And sometimes that can be manipulative and controlling. One piece of advice, never loan money, never tell them where you work, and be careful about telling people where you live until you've established trust. And number 4, this is going to be unpopular with a number of my mental health professional friends, okay? But I am a huge fan of reconciliation. A step before reconciliation is this idea of forgiveness. Here's the deal, you've got to forgive. You've all heard the story that choosing not to forgive is like poisoning yourself hoping somebody else will die. Choosing not to forgive is picking up a giant cinder block of pain and just voluntarily deciding, I'm going to carry this around with me forever, just because. Now, forgiveness doesn't mean you've got to let somebody back in your life. Forgiveness doesn't mean that you stick your hand back in to a bag where a rattlesnake is and let it bite you again. That's just dumb, right? So reconciliation happens when you're safe and when you know where you're headed moving forward. When you are safe, when you have a good community at home, when you've got people in your life that you can be vulnerable and whole with, if you have a counselor or a pastor or a spouse or a fiance that you trust, reconciliation can be a powerful healing moment. You're not going to ever clear up the past, but you can decide to establish a new relationship going forward. And it will be slow, and it will be intentional, and it will be painful. All of those things are the price of admission for love. All of those things are the price of admission for wholeness and future wellness. So where you can, I strongly encourage reconciliation. But you've got to have a group of people with you. You've got to be safe, and you have to make sure that those things happen on your terms. So that's it for the video on reconciling with an estranged mom or dad. If you're safe, go for it. Keep sending your emails to askjohn@ramseysolutions.com. Follow, buttons, go watch some other funny YouTube clips or some great stand-up comedians probably somewhere in the tubes, and you can probably learn how to fix your car, whatever's going on in the YouTubes. Dr. John Delony, Ramsey Network. I love you. Stay in school. Don't do drugs. See you soon.